Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Misty Portal. This is going to be a Dungeon Master brainstorm to come up with a original campaign idea. I am just going to brainstorm with you guys. So none of this has been pre-planned whatsoever, and I am excited to see what we come up with. So, a quick explanation. By original campaign, I mean an idea for a campaign story. So let's just get right into it, and I believe it'll end up explaining itself. So, we have nothing. We're in a blank slate. What do we want to do? We want to run our friends or players through some sort of a campaign that is going to engross them, be extremely fun, exciting. Maybe you want to have emotions in there. Maybe you want some sadness, some happiness, and you want to really role play and run your players through an original campaign or some sort of a story arc. So, let's first come up with some of the main points of what we need in a story arc. Let's see, a villain. Villain would be key. Let's try beginning and end. I know that seems really vague and obvious, but we're just throwing up some main plot points, some main things. That is not how you spell beginning. Okay. Heroes are... we can put heroes, but heroes are typically going to be... I can't spell. Heroes are typically going to be the players themselves. There could be little side heroes and stuff, but ultimately what this is about is the players and their choices. And maybe they're not even heroes. That's always something to keep in mind is... Sometimes players are very anti-hero like, and they have a lot of flaws and maybe do some really fucked up things and, have remorse along the way. But I think as long as they're growing as a character, that's where the role play really is solid and the best. Okay, so we have a villain. We should definitely get a beginning and an end. Who are the heroes? Maybe a setting, like a world, or a universe, or could even just be like a city, or if you're gonna go sci-fi with this, it can all take place on a spaceship. What else? I think where you have beginning and end, something more like a story arc. Maybe we could combine the two. And so I think something to really keep in mind in this situation is that you can definitely come up with a beginning and an end to a campaign story, but having the middle, having an idea for that, you can contemplate what you think will happen. But that's really where the heroes come in. That's where the players will dictate what happens in the middle. And your job, really, as a storyteller and as a dungeon master, is to keep all of that entertaining and intertwine all of that in your story arc, in the beginning and in the end. And if you can do that pretty well, and you can tie up loose ends and bring your players back to something that happened near the beginning, those callbacks, you can really, really blow somebody's mind and just and give them such an immersive, amazing experience that they will remember for the rest of their lives, and they will talk about it like they were actually there. Let's see, what else? So we got villain, we got heroes, setting, okay, story arc, beginning and end. Let's go from there, and let's try and elaborate a little bit on each of these. So let's go into the villain here first. I like a villain that has depth. I don't want necessarily a bad guy just for being a bad guy. Give him a backstory. I think a good villain is somebody that you can at times relate to. It's easy to write a villain that is just pure evil for evil's sake. You know, somebody that's just a bad guy that's easy to hate and easy to throw away. And it's, you know, easy to watch that bad guy die at the end. I don't want a shallow villain that is a throwaway villain for an entire campaign that could last years. I want a villain that maybe is around the whole campaign, whether the players know it or not, but a villain that will develop with the campaign. I like that. So I think in this instance, it's nice to have a villain that will be there throughout the campaign. And I think what I want is for the players to understand this villain before they disdain this villain. So I think something that would really help with that is, what would be, think of like what are the positives and negatives of the villain? I cannot type. Okay, positive traits. Why would this villain be likable? What's something that everybody can relate to in another human being? Parents. Everybody has parents, right? What happens to parents? Sometimes they treat you terribly. Sometimes they abandon you. Sometimes they beat you. And even worse. Maybe you've never known your parents. Maybe you grew up, you know, going through foster care or something. Parents are always something as a child that's a huge anchor point for associating with somebody else. If you've had similar childhoods and parents that have raised you in a similar way, whether it's good or bad, you can usually relate to that person at least on that level. So positive traits, has parents. I know that seems super vague right now, but it's a place to start. It's a place to think about. Okay, maybe we go dark and he has a dark past with his parents. Or maybe we don't touch on his parents ever. But us knowing that allows a little bit more thought, an avenue that maybe if you don't write it down and look at it, you wouldn't think about it. Okay, what's something else? What's another positive trait a person can have? Something that's likable. Something relatable. What about just like a good smile and laugh. Think of this. How nice would it be to introduce your players to this likable character that is, he's playing himself, but he's also putting on a facade. And he's getting in the good graces slowly, just this really slow drip of, here's just one short interaction with this guy here. Here's another short interaction, down the road here. And they don't know. They don't realize, they just see this guy a couple times. And maybe you put a draw in it that he's somebody they want to go to. Maybe it's as simple as your villain is a merchant. Let's do this. Has something you want. So maybe he's a merchant, and maybe he is a merchant that has very unique items that are powerful and can help the players. Boom, you have an immediate draw for them to want to go back to see this villain. While they're there, the interactions are good. He seems jovial. He seems friendly. He's got that smile. He's got nice looking teeth, and they just have these good role playing interactions with him. And you can play him that way, and you can even play him, that way, and then have your players, if they check him on his insight to see, is this guy being honest? You don't necessarily go and tell them, no, he's not being honest. You would have to say something more along the lines of, he seems pretty genuine, but you just get a strange sense looking into his eyes that there's something else there that you don't see right now. You give them this vague allusion to, yes, there is something more to this guy, but you never actually sit down and say, or you never tell them, yes, this guy is evil. You see behind his smile and you see an evil man back there. Even if it's a natural 20, you wouldn't want them to know that. So, you have to, those are little things you do have to keep in mind. Let's go merchant. Boom. Okay. Okay, so attractive, maybe we should do like attractive traits. I'm trying to think. And sorry for the sloppy format, guys. I'm literally just coming up with all of this on the spot to just not only have a brainstorm with you, but a brainstorm with myself. I really enjoy working on stories and brainstorming like this. I like to get my positive juices flowing, because when I do write for my campaign, it's nice to have other ideas from other brainstorms and just continue that kind of positive, relaxed, just brainstorming session. Okay, so what else? Has parents, good smile, has something you want. This guy, in our case, we were thinking merchant. And then let's say a reason. Reason for being evil? Do we say evil? Reason for like wanting to do bad, wanting to cause. Reason for wanting to do bad. Okay, it doesn't sound great, very childish, but that's fine. I get the idea. Okay, so reason for wanting to do bad. Do we go back to his parents? I mean, that is definitely something to go back to. Um, motivation. That's it. That's it. Motivation to do evil. We'll just say evil. It's fine. It's typical that when somebody gets wronged, they go evil. Most bad guys in movies, if they are trying to write them as a more than singular dimensional bad guy, they'll probably do something like, well, let's give him a reason, and that reason should be he was wronged. Somebody killed somebody he loves, somebody hurt him physically or emotionally, or both perhaps. What's something different, something unique? What would be a unique motivation to do something evil? I mean, it's tough, honestly, outside of someone being wronged in some way. What would be a good outside motivation? Maybe it only seems evil. Perhaps it's more out of a love of his for something, or hers. We haven't really decided if this is a girl or a guy. Okay, so let's go with that. Let's stick with love. She loves something or someone, and maybe is doing this for that person. Okay, how about this? Ooh, here we go. I like this. So maybe this whole story, the story arc, is based around this villain who loves an unattainable other. Let's go with a guy. The villain is a man, and let's say that his motivation to quote unquote do evil is to save this person that he loves. And even more on an interest, like on maybe a unique little twist, this other person doesn't know that he loves them. Maybe there's never been contact or interaction. So, he wants to save his love. That's the motivation to do evil. Now, I think we could do something along the lines of the person he loves is a noble or a princess or somebody that has powerful family. And ultimately, maybe the ultimate showdown of this whole thing is the villain showing up, say the bad or the quote unquote not quote unquote, let's just say the villain's antagonist is the king of a realm somewhere. So maybe the story starts off somehow by meeting this villain, introducing the villain, if you will. And that would just be this tiny little drop in a bucket of information about where this villain is going. And, like I said, this makes me smile thinking about this, because you could do this, and this could be one of the very first interactions your whole, the whole group has, is with this guy. And maybe maybe he doesn't come back into the story for a while. I mean, like, months. Maybe 6 months later, they run into this same dude and he's got a different shop set up somewhere else or something of that nature. And then maybe you start to sprinkle him in a little bit more, and then they somewhere along the lines spot this villain with someone that they know is bad. And it could go from there. It could just turn into a giant mystery where it's them trying to figure out, why was he there? What was he doing there? And you could just drop them stuff here and there, and then wait till the very end, and then suddenly, boom, big bad villain shows up, comes to kill the king or the ruler of the land. That could be really fun. But that's I think some important stuff to keep in mind. So beginning and end. Let's see. Introduction of villain. Ending with the big reveal of the villain. Okay, so that's pretty vague, but I like that this story arc, at the very least, is going to have a lot to do with the villain, whether the players know it or not, and it's going to be a while probably before they get there. I think that's a really good vague start, and then it's easy enough to start filling in the details from there. Who is the villain? Maybe you don't want him to be a merchant. Maybe you want the villain to be somebody in the party that's helping them. You could, even if you really wanted to, I wouldn't recommend this for a first-time DM or even first-time players, but if you're running a campaign and you want to have one of the players be the villain, you could do that. Now, you obviously have to trust in them, they have to trust in you, and there's a lot of stuff you have to try and work out, and then there's a lot of stuff that would probably end up being improv'd, and you just have to feed off of each other without making it obvious. But that could make for something truly entertaining. That could be something really fun to do, especially if you have a nice group and that they've played together before, and maybe you've finished a campaign or two with them. Two seems, pretty crazy, but at least one campaign, and then you drop this on the next one. That could be really fun. Heroes, are we only going players? Maybe there are some side heroes, perhaps like powerful allies, for example, sorcerers, demigods. Could even be like intra. Is it intradimensional? Intradimensional species. Other dimension. Let's just say other dimensional creatures. That's always a possibility. And then the nice thing about the players having allies is that they're also really fun to be able to utilize in storytelling. And a lot of the stuff you can plan for, I want this guy to be their friend and then die in this way later. sometimes those are the plans that they seem amazing when you're thinking about it and you picture this moment of like killing off this ally that the players have come to beloved over the past several months, and then you end up killing him off in front of them. Sometimes that's not the best choice for the moment, and you might end up never killing that guy, or maybe he ends up dying in a different way later on. You never really know. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind too. Is have some good ideas, write things down, and plan as much as or little as you want or need to, I suppose. Just keep in mind that things are going to change, and don't be afraid to go off your own script and, go down a path where you may be uncomfortable yourself or would have never thought of. And, don't be afraid to follow that and see where that leads you. Okay. I feel like that's a really good start. So, I'm going to do another session where we go into more in-depth detail about each one of these things. But I feel like this is a really good start to just getting some basics, some basic thoughts and ideas down. Yeah, if you enjoyed this, hit the sub button down below. Look out for part 2, which will be coming very soon. And if there's any tips, tricks, hints, other things you want to drop in chat, feel free as well. And thank you guys for watching.